Evening and welcome to Edessa Dardak Crusade. Tonight's scene we find Madeline just making sure that everything is, as always, nice and clean and tidy in her, what shall we say, the place she receives guests every once in a while. She's put out some refreshments and is waiting for a guest to arrive.
And at approximately the appointed time, as most tragically, your most esteemed guest does not have a watch. He does indeed arrive. In fact, you can hear he covered a wagon. Covered? Nah, it'd probably be more similar to the one you entered before, but not quite as ornate. It is a roofed carriage. Not quite of the same quality as the one you were in just a night ago. But it's a roofed carriage, which is fairly prominent and important. You see the man walk on out. Has a walking stick with him. Rests on it casually.
Madeline will open the door and welcome him inside.
The man with his, again, rather lovely looking walking stick. The handle crafted in the shape of a bird's head. Hobbles on over to you and does his best impression of a bow. Which one? As good as one can with a walking stick and a bit of a limp.
Good evening.
Lady Madeleine, yes. I'm most honored that you would have me at your own haven. Or rather, actually, no, because he's outside. He will say, at your own home.
Well, I am glad that you could come. Please.
I could never miss such an invitation from one as prominent and as elegant as yourself. But yes, I should not keep you waiting outside. Thank you. Thank you. He'll walk in.
Can I offer you a refreshment?
Oh, that would be most appreciated, thank you.
She will get 2 goblets and pour some liquid into it that is fairly thick and red. She will show him.
Really big kind of brown, kind of trimmed neatly with like fancy embroidery on it. This really big robe that covers kind of most of his body. Like it almost feels oversized, but that's kind of the point. Like it, the sleeves kind of hang off his arms. And he obviously has a turban on.
Please, sit. It is. I know that you must have a merchant. I know merchants are always busy. But I really appreciate that you could take the time to see me. I am honored for your presence. It is sadly not too often I get to spend time with one of your family. I hope to rectify this.
Oh, we have a bit of how would you say, isolation is streaking us. Something I am too looking to correct. I know it took us several decades to make a name for ourselves in the desert.
Well, to a certain extent, I can quite understand the isolationists' approach to a certain extent. I myself lived quite alone for a time, well, alone from others of our kind. But please, and she will pass him one of the goblets. Just please relax. I am truly glad to speak with you.
He's kind of tapping the cane against his hand. It's very light. It's a very slight gesture, but when you hand him the goblet, he will. You see him stop and rest it on one of his thighs. You see basically in place between his hand and his thighs. He places his the hand holding the cane on his thigh, and he will lean over and take the goblet from you, and will sip. It's fine vintage. I assume you have heard, Elder Herd.
Yes, I do, and that is why she can indeed present him with such.
Yeah, it's no big deal. Your blood is quite nice. You have a lot of people to choose from.
I hope the taste is to your liking.
Ah, yes, very rich, just how I like it.
Very
You
good.
have some healthy vessels.
Oh, I do, and I hope to remain to have them, as well as everyone would hope so. But as I'm sure you are aware of, recently a certain other prominent person have made certain arrangements. This might, well, not directly, but it might, in a manner of speaking, be a could be a problem to certain parties.
Oh, fascinating. Of whom do you speak? I'm aware of several recent arrangements in the city.
Gerard, former keeper of Elysium, and Zillar of Clan Ventu.
His eyes kind of he kind of smiles and his eyes kind of point upward and they shift from side to side a bit, as if, oh, you know, we don't like them sort of look, but in a very cheeky way.
This person has had an unfortunate tendency to make investments and have interests in the mortal worlds that, and then it's very obvious when she says, by some strange coincidence, have interfered with my clan's plans more than once. How unlucky can one be? He is planning on building something. He is planning on constructing a new building that would become a problem for more than one people, for more than one person in this city. And I do not, well, I of course wish him the best, of course. But I have heard some unfounded rumors somewhere that there may be one or two people in this city who might be interested in see to it that, of course, nothing would happen to him. Of course not. One would not break the laws. But make certain investments that would directly conflict with the construction of this building. Now, the reason I asked you here is, of course, to have your lovely company. But I would ask of your opinion of such a thing, such an endeavor. Of course, this is, and then she smiles. At this point, only hearsay, and I cannot confirm or deny this, but, well, you must have an opinion of this.
Can you make a perception empathy roll, please?
No,
wait a second. I'll set up the thing for you.
No, that's not what I'm looking for.
Oh, is it? Dice roll. Which one is it? I don't. Yeah, just use dice roll or whatever one you want.
One.
Okay.
Those ones?
2 successes. Okay. 2 successes is enough to tell you have his attention. The double talk irritates him.
Okay.
I cannot confirm or deny this, or I'm just here to see. That sort of like casual white lying is kind of pissing him off a little bit.
Okay.
Because he obviously knows that's not the case. And so seems to be irritating. He's not out. He doesn't look outwardly irritated.
But
it's more in the minute body movements of you kind of see him twitch a little bit when he does that. He kind of just doesn't really look at you when you say that. He just kind of focuses on something else. And when he tends to pay more attention when you're getting to the meat of the matter. His eyes seem to refocus on you. But he gives your question some thought.
So, if I were to tell you that I know for a fact that the person is doing this and would be much more effective at accomplishing these goals if...
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Okay. So if I were to tell you that this person is someone I know very well, and that I can indeed confirm that someone would be doing this, but would be much more effective if this person had friends, I would ask myself, who would want to assist in such a matter?
I'm sorry, what's your question? Out of character?
She's rephrasing it to be a little bit more direct. She's not...
I'm trying to understand what the question is, because before it was what are your thoughts and what's Gerard doing? Is it basically the same thing? What are your thoughts on what Gerard is doing?
Yeah, but now she restates it as, what would you... She's asking, is there anyone you know that might be interested in being a part of this? Is essentially what she's asking.
In being a part of stopping him or being a part of helping him?
Helping the person trying to stop him. So yes, stopping him.
Okay. his pleasant demeanor kind of fades a little bit. His face becomes a little bit more straight. His head kind of bubbles from side to side. His eyes shift as he does so, kind of lazily. Well, I suppose there are many individuals who would not be particularly happy to see him succeed. The Ventru are quite divisive as a clan. They've aligned themselves with an even more divisive one. The only ones I would consider being invested in the success of a non-Ventru Insula would be the Ventru themselves and their usurper affiliates. I can't even imagine the Toreador having an opinion either way. Depends on what he wishes to do, I suppose.
Well,
if it is some grand gesture of overinflated egotism and air quotes artistry and flamboyance and self-indulgence, then I'm sure they would be quite happy to help him. But if they are, if it is something financial or more dry, then I can imagine them just leaving that well alone.
I would imagine a person like him would afford certain privileges to those who help him in this place and in other situations.
What is it that he is looking to accomplish exactly?
Gaining a stronger position in the city to start with.
Well, of course, we all want to do that. That is a given. But how? What are his specifics as they are? What is his...
If I were to guess.
What is his methodology towards earning the so-called beloved status that every Cainite craves?
If I were to guess, the Elysium is open only rarely. There are places to meet with our kind, but nothing too grand, nothing that can house a lot of them, a lot of us. If you were to open this place, he would have the grandest and most luxurious place for our kind. If one had such a place, one is privy to many conversations.
Alec's great grandchild has also taken that up as a goal. What would make this a threat in your eyes?
First of all, he is a Ventru. That by itself is a problem. Secondly, Gerard served as keeper when I was seneschal. I know the man. The man is no fool, and he is merciless in his pursuits. Whatever he is planning to do with this is not just to embetter himself, it is to remove those who would be a opposition to him from the city, and quite swiftly.
Make me a charisma expression roll to convince him of the threat.
I will spend a willpower. Oh!
Yeah, 6 successes. Okay, yeah, no.
What?
You're thoroughly convincing in your argument. Not really much more can be stated other than that you more or less entirely convince him that this is a serious issue and needs to be dealt with. Yeah, no, you make a fantastic argument for yourself, and it's not just the words you use; it's the way in which you use them. You sound convincing. You sound you sound urgent when you need to sound urgent. You emphasize what needs to be stated.
And I'm guessing the fact that she actually has known Gerard for some time.
Yeah, you emphasize your experience and treachery of this individual and kind of play off the sort of odd code of conduct the Assamites hold themselves to. It meshes well with your argument. He kind of nods. He kind of weighs your words. But you kind of see him coming around to you. I think I understand. I can see why he'd be considered more of a threat than your standard would be second keeper. I was when I initially heard about this from you. My initial rebuke could have been, well, why not let the Toreador, Primogen, and this Ancilla have at it? Let them fight amongst each other. If nothing else, it would be wonderful entertainment.
Well, that is, well...
The theatrics of Toreador, when they get into a feud, it's probably their only redeeming quality.
Well, I am not of a clan that is taking a part in this great war raging. But certain...
That's not necessarily true.
The Sombra are neutral, right?
The Sombra are their own faction. That doesn't necessarily mean they're neutral. They had a vested interest in ending the conflict.
Well...
And they actively participated in it to end it on their terms. But I'm not going to say roll subterfuge or anything, because you're not really lying at all.
I'll preface it by saying...
And you don't need to preface it. It's not a problem.
Will continue.
Largely true.
She will say, our princess wishes is that this town, this city, remains free of conflict. I do not have any evidence, but I am quite certain that quite a few people are hatching plans all the time to make sure that whatever can be pushed to gain them favor in the city without breaking these laws would be done.
I see. Do you know of any proxies this man uses? Any friends of his own he might have? I can only presume he is not doing this by himself, considering he has just awoken from torpor just a few months ago. Then again, he is went through. He might be trying to stake a claim all on his lonesome, just to make the point. They do love making those.
Especially Gerard, he is quite assertive.
Still, it does not answer the question.
I will know quite soon. I am making inquiries. Not to his... Well, I want to make sure that anyone who... I want to be able to know who is going to help him do this construction. When I have these names, when I know these people, the builders of this, well, I'm sure that this could be very useful information, but as of right now, no.
Well, if you wish to make this business the purview of the clan as a whole, that is something I can help arrange for you. I can potentially set up a meeting between you and Primogen. It will come with its costs, of course. I act as a face, an emissary, well, closer to a courier, not an emissary. This would presume I act as the true representative of a clan, which I am not. But I exist to correspond with different powers and ensure that their time is not wasted and the validity of claims made between these correspondences are valid.
Well, I must say that you do your plan proud. I must say I would, if it is at all possible, I would be honored and gladly pay whatever cost there is to meeting a primitive.
Business. I do love to play the merchant. He does. He whispers, mumbles something to himself, and smiles. Seems to be respect. He said. Usually, those who wish to meet with the Primogen, unless they are of the court themselves, it will cost them a single major boon. Not towards the Primogen or the clan, to myself as a sort of commission, as is my role within my clan. It is a toll in exchange for representation. What's Madeline thinking when he makes this offer?
Madeline, at this point, I don't know if I want to do it well. She's kind of in the place where she's thinking over in her head, is this the time to make some sort of arrangement? Because one major boon for just a meeting is very high price for her. She thinks so, at least. So she's thinking of maybe arguing that, well, it is a mutually beneficial agreement she wants, and it's at no. I mean, what she will say, I don't know how she would phrase it, but she would insist that it's. I mean, she wouldn't want to take the Primogen's time, so it's by no means required. But
are you attempting to haggle him? You know, like barter with him, basically.
She would emphasize. Sorry about that.
Okay.
That it is a mutually beneficial agreement.
I will. Okay, this is. Sorry. This is. You're trying to haggle him, which is generally a commercial skill. I will allow you to use expression if that is higher, because that can also be used when it comes to. It depends on how you're trying to convince him. You can do it via the commercial method of haggling. You can try and reiterate the beneficial relationship that could be arranged here, even one that could lead to greater things. You could try and just straight up strong arm him.
She will go with the option number 2. And what is that? That would
be expression.
Yeah, but that would be like a political thing, right? So that would be what, charisma expression or empathy or manipulation?
It would be manipulation expression in this case. Because you're not trying to get him to like you or sympathize with you. You're just trying to get him to do something that you want to happen.
Yeah, like I just needed to have that. Just yeah. So that would be.
You're trying to kind of manipulate his outlook, quite literally.
One success.
Okay. Because you left a decent impression before and got 6 successes on that expression roll, like he's pretty convinced of the threat here, very much so. Instead of a major, which is his starting offer, you manage to get it back down to the appropriate price of a minor boon. He does does expect a boon in exchange for the representation. And of course, he intends to be there and help facilitate discussion. He doesn't intend to just leave you out in the cold.
Oh, and she will accept a minor boon.
Ouch.
And then she will just I must say it is not every day I look forward to a meeting like this, but she will just take a sip from her cup for a moment and just begin to just. She will just look at him after like having thought for a second, and she will just. I hope you do not mind if I ask you of something a bit different. These usurpers, I have met 2 when I came back and 1 when I was here before, a long time ago. I do not have a good impression of them. Well, I do not have much of an impression, and what impression I have of them is not good, but there are some that say, maybe not something I do not know what to think of, but some say that they are the harbingers of quite horrifying things for all of us. There are those who say that they are well, a lot more diabolical than they would appear. And from here, they're so like us yet.
Pardon?
They are so like us, but yet the bloodline of whatever you want to call it, the aberration that is them, is much younger than many elders. It is a strange thing, no?
They are as stated usurpers, nothing more, nothing less, really. I would consider them dangerous and treacherous, even more so than, well, the ones they consort with. Something that will no doubt crumble and dissolve in time. No honor among thieves and all that.
Truly.
Not that I'm suddenly going to take to the streets and wipe them off the face of the planet. No, that would be most inappropriate of me.
Oh, I would not expect you
Oh no, I am contrary to popular belief. The Assamites are not simple assassins. We are far wiser. Not to go gallivanting around, spreading justice and fire. Like an obsessed warrior salubri.
I suppose you know of their quite, what shall we say, intense
Hot-headed.
representative.
They have short tempers. Unfortunately, they have very long blades. It's not a very healthy combination a lot of the time. Although I find a lot of, how to say,
Did you cut out? Did you drop? You did. Damn it. Intermission.
there we go. I'm back.
Oh, that was badly timed for an intermission. All right.
Well, no, Abdul will just say that the warriors have their place, but I find the healers make up the core of what the clan, what makes the clan so valuable. An invaluable compass, perhaps I should say. The warriors tend to be what happens when people stop following the compass. Stick to the road because wolves roam the woods.
An apt description of, well, more than one thing for our nature, no?
And what happens to rest of in the woods.
Whether the wolves are in the forest or you bring the wolf into the forest. As most of us would probably say that we do. As Madeline said.
Sorry, what did Madeline say? Because
she said, in response, she just says, whether the wolves are in the woods or we bring the wolf into the woods, referring, of course, to the beast.
Quite so, quite so. But with that business out of the way, I neglected to ask, in the face of formalities, how your night has been. How have you been in recent nights, dear Madeline? As you said, we really get the chance to speak. It has been such a long time. What have you been up to, other than looking at a very distasteful venture and frowning?
Well, of course, we all know that this takes time. But yes, I've been tending to myself. My studies take time, as most studies do, but, well, I spend every night relishing the thought that I am indeed able to read and write. I am sadly I am from originally more to the northwest, more than western part of the world. And sadly, these places, literacy and the art of study is not as prevalent as in, well, I suppose your clan's part of the world, which is a shame.
Our clan tends to benefit from education than a lot of others.
It is one thing I envy of you. That it seems to be less restrictions. It seems to be more freely shared and developed. While my country of origin is dotted with monasteries that would take the knowledge and keep it to themselves. I find this quite distasteful, but that is not what you asked of me. I am sorry. I have been doing quite well. I have been, well, catching up with the former prince. My former prince. And I have begun to look into this florist, this madman displaying fleshy and meat puzzles or works of art made out of bodies. Have you heard of this?
Yes, I have heard of the florist. He is wise not to trespass onto our domain. He'd be dead within the night.
I can only hope so. He has been quite active.
Yes, so I hear quite malfeasant individual. I personally don't believe it to be dismisido, too obvious. Unless, of course, that's the point, and they are trying to be so obvious that they end up successfully concealing themselves. But I don't know to show off one's powers like that so overtly.
That
But
is
then
my
again,
wonder.
I hear that Missy Hound was pulled into the issue, so perhaps she is simply working to clean up the mess for her clan, who knows?
Well, it would be reasonable to assume that it is indeed the Samitsi. Who else would have access to a thing like vicissitude? But we all know that other clans can learn of these things by willing teaching or otherwise. If I was a, what shall we call it, suspicious person, I would think who would benefit from such open and clear breaches of the city's laws that can clearly only be perpetrated by one clan. But as I say, this is me being suspicious.
Well, you seem to have found yourself in a rather morbid set of affairs. I wish you all the best on them. I prefer to stay out of such bloody situations myself. Prefer to simply keep to my corner, to my business, and to my clan for the most part.
I can see why you would prefer this. It suits you.
Oh, I thank you. You flatter this ragged old individual.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
Yes. What do you know about oh, actually, I should ask, do you happen to know anything about that rather ambitious little construction project north of the city? I know it's been catching some people's attention.
Oh, it has.
I'm aware it has been going on for quite some time now, but no one's never ever really looked into it. It was considered something of a pipe dream at first.
Well,
Just
I,
another little motto trist.
well, unless it turns out that it is the source of problems, it will mean that there is more vessels closer to the city. And that is always a good thing.
Oh, I'm not saying it is a problem. I was just curious. A lot of interesting things happening nowadays.
Hmm. Indeed, this Salazar. Have you
Ah,
met
yes,
him?
the old Nosferatu prince, Todd of Mithral.
Have you met him? I have not had the pleasure yet.
No, I have not visited his domain, although I will most likely be doing so. On behalf of my Primogen, wishes to make sure that the relationship between the Nosferatu and the Assamites in the area is reinforced, and all is as it should be.
Well, I wish you a very good trip when you get the time. I hope to see him myself at some point in the future.
The Nosferatu rarely find themselves in a position of power, so it should be interesting to see how they react to my presence. That said, they do tend to rise above, ironically. They've been quite hospitable when I have dealt with them in the past, so I have no doubt that the same will be true here, especially if this Prince Salazar wishes to spend any time as a prince. It would do him well to treat guests with due respect and hospitality. But as I said, I fully expect him to reinforce what has always been.
Well,
He is quite a credible individual, from what his history suggests.
I have always had this special place for the Nosferatu. I very much enjoyed the company of Ivan Zool, the former hound. Oh, sheriff. He was sheriff, right? Back in the day?
He was sheriff back in the day. He spent some time as a hand and I think became a sheriff after that.
Yeah. The hound and sheriff, Ivan Zool. He was, hopefully, still is a good friend. Well, I understand for some practical reasons why some would be apprehensive to them, but I've always found their company enjoyable.
I have never dealt with Mr. Zul himself. I don't really have too much to say about him one way or the other. He seems like a reasonable individual, I suppose. But I have had so little experience with him. I can't really speak one way or the other.
Quite
I've had of
understandable.
accomplishments, though.
Indeed. Prince Salazar. Yes, I should make it my priority to get to meet him soon. Do you know of where he hails? Is he from this of Anatolia? Well, it's not called Anatolia yet, but is he of the Holy Land, or is that not known?
Oh, Mr. Zul?
No, Salazar.
Why, he comes from Mithral. I don't really know if he's from the Crusader state, well, former Crusader states, or Europe, or the Middle East, or further beyond. It's not really my concern.
Oh,
What he was when he was a mortal is not necessarily relevant now. It's possible he was never a Crusader at all. In fact, it's likely there are more families than there are Crusaders, after all.
quite so. Hmm. Still interesting. We could have had, back in the day, we could have had Sewell as prince, but that option was short-lived. Can I refill your cup?
Of course. Appreciate the refreshments.
She will refill his goblet and pass it over to him again, and she will just. So, I will really enjoy spending more time with you or maybe other members of your clan. It is, I know so little. Of course, I am not going to pry and demand that you do. It does seem to be one of the stronger clans, families.
Oh, we've always resided within this region of the world ever since our founding.
Exactly. Exactly. You have laid claim and you have kept it, which not a lot of other clans can truly claim. I will look forward to this. More discussions, more talks in the future.
Yes, I look forward to meeting you again. Perhaps next time I can invite you to a venue within the Assamite domain instead. I would done for your patronage this evening. Well, yeah, actually, no, that's what he'd say, because it makes sense.
Well, she will just bow and say, I would very much like that. I thank you for taking your time. to come and visit me.
I most certainly will, if you'd have me, of course. And he begins to get up and takes the cane that's been in his hand ever since he sat down. He begins to tip-tap, walk out. Do you get the door for him?
Yes, she will.
Yeah, he's not hunched over or anything, should be noted. He's just got a bit of a...
But it's just a limp in one of the legs. So it's... okay. So it's not like maybe old age or something like that.
He appears middle-aged, probably an injury.
Yeah, it most likely an injury. All right. But she will see him off and just wish him the very best. And see him off. And unless there is anything else, this will be the end of the scene. Thank you very much, ST for ST, Play for playing, and watchers for watching. Good night.